Largest landfill in Tennessee, Murfreesboro's Walter Hill facility. Rutherford County is also one of the fastest growing regions in our state, and this landfill becomes more mountainous every day, making it well deserving of its nickname, which is Mount Trashmore. It's stinky and getting more so, and there was a recent air quality hearing where residents from the area came out to protest the malodorous content of the air, and everyone was disappointed to learn that our state doesn't require air quality in and around landfills to be monitored. So our homeowners are left with declining property values and no idea of just how hazardous these odors may actually be. Adding to our problems at Walter Hill is the fact that this landfill site is in the worst possible location, a mere 300 feet from the Stones River, which is the source of our drinking water. Another threat that this landfill poses is that it was once the recipient of large amounts of low-level radioactive waste, and those remain today. Unfortunately, over the past several years, it's become increasingly apparent and acknowledged by our officials that this unhealthy toxic stew is not well contained, and it's leaking into the Stones River on a regular basis. Also at issue is this landfill is the ongoing dumping grounds for huge amounts of construction and demolition debris, the contents of which are not accounted for nor required to be inspected or monitored under state law, despite the fact that materials such as asbestos and gypsum are known carcinogens and hazardous to humans. These particulates are also leaching into the Stones River. With that in mind, it's obvious that without better management, oversight, and regulatory intervention, this landfill is destined to become a serious threat to the future health and economic well-being of Rutherford County and its residents. Reducing the creation of waste is essential to improved waste management, and that can only be accomplished by means of large-scale mandatory recycling and composting efforts. Therefore, we urge the State Board not to approve pending solid waste regulations, nor to schedule any public hearing until TDEC has provided them with a full report on actual recycling, composting, and job creation which results from solid waste disposal and landfills. Thank you.
My name is Christopher Anderson, Vice Conservation Chair for the Middle Tennessee Group of the Sierra Club, and thank you for mentioning Dixon before. There are way too many people in the state that have to have their drinking water supplied by the state, our taxes, because the wells have been run by unpermitted, unlined landfills. The Sierra Club's policy for reducing waste is based on zero waste. Zero waste is a design principle and planning approach for the environmental management of resources. It aims to prevent waste by design rather than manage it after the fact. Sierra Club's zero waste policy addresses not only the quantity of waste we generate, but also its toxicity, its contribution to climate change, and the important links between waste reduction and corporate responsibility. A little woozy this morning. I was exposed to another source of methane looking at oil and gas wells in our public lands all weekend, but this is another large source. Lined landfills, like their open dump predecessors, are a failed technology for handling the discards of our society. Burying unsorted material takes an unacceptable toll on public health, safety, and our environment, not only because of damage landfills cause when they are built, operated, and abandoned, but because landfilling removes products from circulation so that virgin resources have to be mined or harvested to replace them. The barrier systems that today's landfills depend upon will all ultimately fail. Every liner leaks eventually, as EPA has stated. Likewise, leachate or garbage juice collection systems will fail when not maintained. Pollution of underlying aquifers or surface waters, like we've seen in Dixon and elsewhere, is only postponed, not prevented. Methane is more than 23 to 100 times, it's complicated, but 23 to 100 times as potent a greenhouse gas as carbon dioxide. Methane is produced when organic discards are buried deep in landfills. Gas collection systems, as designed and operated today, only capture a small part, as low as 20%. There's so many issues with solid waste in Tennessee. I've recently found out #1 in the country for receiving low-grade nuclear waste. And from talking to some people, there's a lot of questions about what goes into all these C and D landfills. And our former state naturalist, I just heard him say last night, he sees way too many gulls over some of these. There should not be gulls circling over C and D landfills. They're after organic matter, things that should not be in these landfills. The Tennessee chapter of the Sierra Club supports the state of Tennessee's goal, established in 1991, of reducing solid wastes disposed of in our state's landfills by 25%. However, we believe that current regulations do little to enforce this goal, and that the proposed amendments before the Tennessee Underground Storage Tanks and Solid Waste Disposal Control Board only provide more loopholes that detract from the goal. The Sierra Club believes it would be prudent for the Solid Waste Disposal Control Board to direct the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation to conduct an in-depth study of current reuse, reclamation, diversion, and recycling trends, as well as the success and shortcomings of current policy before adopting the proposed new rules. Effective and responsible diversion of solid wastes into reuse, remanufacturing, and recycling sectors could provide thousands of good-paying, honest jobs across Tennessee. We can save landfill space, taxpayer monies, and create private sector opportunities and needed jobs by diverting waste from our landfills. It sounds like a win-win proposition to me. When I lived in Montana, just as a student at the University of Montana, I was able to do an amazing amount getting integrated solid waste management together, committed together at the university. Living in an isolated community like that, a mountain town of 50,000, we had to look for more innovative, local reuse possibilities, like putting glass around backfills, buildings, and road base. But we have such a more robust, prolific set of markets around Nashville, and there are far more opportunities open, I believe. And looking forward to working with Bruce, NAACP, and so many other people who have been doing so much on this front. Thank you for pulling this together.
Okay, well, thank you. My name is Bruce Wood. I'm the elected president of BARC, and I would like to thank in particular the Nashville branch of the NAACP and the state NAACP for being longtime partners in this. And as Dr. Strong said earlier, landfills and solid waste are environmental justice. Where do the landfills go? They go where the poor, minority, and rural people live. One thing that we've said for many years in BARC, there are no landfills in Belmead. And that is true. You're never going to see the 17th hole of the Belmead Golf Club used for a landfill. And there's no reason that it should. There's no reason that there should be a landfill in Belmead. There's no reason there should be a landfill in Murfreesboro that's taking 1 million tons a year. People testified on August 22nd that they could smell that landfill from 2 miles away. And that is why we're here to ask the State Solid Waste Board, Underground Storage Tank and State Solid Waste Board, which meets tomorrow, and the staff is asking them to set a public hearing for these regulations. And we're saying we've had it for 23 years. We've had empty regulation. Tennessee is the only state that credits landfill construction waste as recycled. I mean, where does that come from? What good does that do us? We've got wood, we've got heavy chemicals. There's just no reason to credit landfill construction waste, but what it is, it's a subsidy for the landfill companies. So we're here to ask the state board tomorrow, and we've done other asking, we've written to the board, we've written to the department, do not set a date for public hearing on these regulations. Instead, ask for a report from the department on landfilling, composting, recycling, and jobs. That's what it's all about. Chris mentioned jobs. We could create 6,800 jobs if we recycled or composted 50% of what we landfill. That's an official study by the US EPA. That is a lot of jobs. That's more jobs than Volkswagen created, 6 times more jobs. So we're losing out on the landfills, we're losing out on the jobs, and we're losing out on teaching people that they're part of the social contract. If they'll just do minimal source separation, they'll feel part of, and they will be part of the system. So our point here is to say enough is enough. We've had a corrupt solid waste system since 1991, which subsidized the multinational landfill companies with all these loopholes, and we're saying to the state board, don't set a public hearing tomorrow. Instead, get a report on the facts, and let's turn this around. Thank you.
The state board, are they listening to you guys? I mean, it said it's been over 25 years. I mean, what makes you think it don't change now?
Well, you know, the water drops. Where's a little hole in the rock, you know? And we kept after them, and it's also the facts. And then we don't know if they're going to listen. That's what we find out about tomorrow. But what we do is then we set the stage for the public hearing, and then we set the stage to go back when they accept it. And it's a different board, too. I mean, 2 years ago, they had one man who represented this multinational solid waste company, and he ran that board. And if he wanted to go this way, it went this way. If he wanted to go this way, it went that way. And he's gone now. And so, but you don't know, but all you can do is try. And what we're trying to do is to educate the board, educate the citizens. Really, we have to educate the citizens. If the citizens will wake up and understand the agony that Nashville is laying on Murfreesboro by, we landfill 600,000 tons in Murfreesboro, and it creates a terrible mess. So we need to educate everybody.
Why do you think they come to certain neighborhoods? You said,
well, because as Dr. Strong said, it's environmental justice, and they don't have they're not equipped to resist. They don't know to go get a lawyer. They don't have the money to go get a lawyer. And so it's just a fact. Landfills go where the poor, minority, and rural people live. And then they can fight like dogs, like in Canada. They really fought. They had an educated people, and it just didn't work because, you know, the state of Tennessee is highly biased toward landfill. These regulations, which are in your, these regulations didn't come out of nowhere.
As Bruce has said, one of the things that we can do in addition to speaking to the board that will meet tomorrow is to have citizens to speak to their elected officials and ask their elected officials to put some heat on the state to follow the policy that was set in 1991. And that is for the environmental, on the solid waste, not to affect the environment and affect the health and well-being of citizens. Are there any other questions? If not, again, we thank you for coming. That's the end of our press conference.
thank you.